Welcome to our channel Quiet Mode. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Charlie. Please subscribe, hit like and share our video. Today is June 16, 2026, South Africa's Youth Day. 50 years ago, on this day in 1976, the youth of Soweto stood up against a system that sought to suffocate their future. They fought against the compulsory imposition of Afrikaans in schools, but in truth, they were fighting for their dignity, their right to quality education, and a life free from the chains of apartheid. The youth of 1976 suffered immensely. They were met with live ammunition. Hector Peterson became the face of that sacrifice, but hundreds more were killed and thousands injured. They paid the ultimate price because they refused to accept a bleak future designed by an oppressive state. Today, as we look at the modern construction worker sitting on the rubble of our cities, we must ask, have we built the society they died for? The contrast today is sharp and painful. On one side, we see opulence, crystal chandeliers in empty dining rooms, the symbols of an elite few. On the other, we see our townships, dusty streets, lack of infrastructure, and communities forced to walk through mud. The current government, a coalition of the traditional old guard and new political players, has failed to bridge this gap. They have overseen a labor market where unemployment sits above 32%, and youth unemployment remains a staggering 61%. They have failed to transform our economy to be labor-intensive, leaving the vast majority of Black South Africans locked out of meaningful economic participation. They continue to burden the vulnerable with the weight of poverty, while policies remain detached from the realities on the ground. Nowhere is this failure more evident than in the tragedy of the George building collapse in May 2024. 34 lives were lost when 6,000 tons of concrete crashed down on workers, many of them migrants and vulnerable laborers. What followed was not justice, but a systemic failure of accountability. Despite investigations by the Council for the Built Environment, CBE, citing systematic failures and non-compliance, those responsible have largely escaped criminal prosecution. The bureaucracy has hidden behind liquidation and complex legal maneuvers, leaving families without closure. This is the reality of our current governance. When the wealthy and the connected fail, it is the poor who bear the burden of death, while the system works to protect the developers. Our cities are filled with the illusion of progress. We see glass and steel towers rising rapidly, but they are often built on the foundations of broken labor rights. The workers who build these monuments are often denied the basic rights that the generation of 1976 fought and died for. Academic reports and investigative journalism confirm that oversight is fragmented. Regulations are bypassed for profit, and the private sector, often enabled by the state, treats human life as a dispensable resource. The progress we see is a veneer. Underneath, the worker is left in the dust. Because the government refuses to listen, the people are starting to speak for themselves. Grassroots movements are growing in every corner of South Africa. From community land trusts to independent labor collectives, people are organizing. They are tired of being told that their concerns are secondary to the interests of the elite. Every protest, every handmade sign, is an act of defiance against a status quo that favors criminals and the wealthy over the hard-working citizens. The people have realized that the current coalition government does not have their best interest at heart. The way forward is not found in the boardrooms of the powerful, but in the heart of our communities. We are seeing a new generation of independent leaders, determined, vocal, and driven by conviction. They are no longer waiting for the government to grant them their rights, they are taking back their country. They will not allow the communities to be left to rot. This is a call to action. It is a reminder that the struggle of 1976 was not just for the past, it was a promise for our future. We will organize, we will challenge, and we will hold the powerful to account. The grassroots movement is the new voice of South Africa. It is time for us to reclaim our dignity. We have reached the breaking point of the elite pact. The 2026 Government of National Unity governs a nation where millions cannot find work, with unemployment sitting at a staggering 33.2%. Yet, it maintains an unprecedented and sprawling executive of 32 ministers and 43 deputy ministers. This is not an administrative necessity, it is a patronage network bloated for political expediency. The true cost of this political appeasement is a staggering $6 billion every single year when all perks, protection, and support structures are included. As of June 16, 2026, the approximate conversion for $6 billion South African rand to US dollars, approximately $370,320,900, to euros, approximately 319,467,000 million euros. While local governments collapse and essential services are starved, taxpayers are forced to fund $350 million annually for executive travel and accommodation, and an unconscionable $4.5 billion for VIP protection. The budget is a moral document, and the current budget is a death warrant for the poor. Every rand spent on luxury protection and travel is a direct theft from service delivery. The IMF's assessment exposes the terrifying reality of our public debt sustainability. Debt service costs alone now consume 20% of all government revenue. We are borrowing billions, pushing our gross government debt toward a projected 84.2% of GDP by 2031, not to build schools or water plants, but to sustain an overfed political class while economic growth stagnates at 0.6%. But the political elite is not the only obstacle. We must also confront the harm of the NGO-isation of South Africa. Over the years, a dependency culture has taken root. Foreign-funded NGOs have stepped into the void of state failure, but they arrive with their own donor agendas. They act as a two-tier system that depoliticizes grassroots movements, turning potential radical activists into compliant, grant-chasing administrators. This system prioritizes international optics over local sovereignty, and ultimately stifles the homegrown solutions our communities desperately need. The time for the apathy of elite packs is over. The only path forward is citizen reclamation. Across the country, we must see the transformation of broken public trust into active municipal governance. Through grit and determination, community-led infrastructure repair projects are proving that the grassroots can reclaim local democratic control. We must explicitly demand the reduction of this bloated cabinet. Policy experts advocate capping the cabinet at just 10 core portfolios, a move that could save taxpayers up to $10 billion annually and signal a genuine return to fiscal and moral restraint. 50 years ago, the youth of 1976 laid down their lives for a mandate of equality and true liberation. Reclaiming the mandate of 1976 means remembering that governance is not a patronage network, it is a public trust. It means prioritizing people over political self-interest. The power does not belong to the convoys or the coalitions. It belongs to an empowered, mobilized citizenry ready to hold power accountable at every single level. The elaborate machinery of gaslighting orchestrated by both the South African government and the donor-dependent NGO sector is rapidly losing its grip on the public consciousness. For years, the state has deliberately mislabeled widespread community uprisings as mere service delivery protests, a convenient misnomer designed to depoliticize public anger and mask the true root causes of the unrest: systemic corruption, institutional collapse, and gross unaccountability. Concurrently, the NGO-isation of civil society has frequently professionalized and pacified grassroots struggles, with well-funded organizations claiming to speak for the marginalized while remaining detached from their lived realities and accountable primarily to foreign donors rather than the people. But this gaslighting from NGOs and the South African government is not working anymore. More and more South Africans are becoming fiercely vocal daily, entirely done with waiting on the empty promises of an elite political class that hides behind bureaucratic excuses and unfulfilled pacts. Instead of succumbing to this crisis of demobilization, ordinary citizens are actively reclaiming their democratic power from below. The public's patience for the government of national unity's inertia, bloated executive spending, and lack of transparency has evaporated, replaced by a surge of tactical, organized resistance. Grassroots movements and community-led coalitions are openly rejecting the paternalism of state-sponsored development and the superficial, project-based interventions of traditional NGOs. As seen in localized uprisings and civic actions across the country, citizens are shifting their strategy. They are no longer voting with hope, but with anger and organization, actively demanding mechanisms like the right to recall to immediately remove failing, corrupt representatives. The people are refusing to remain invisible in their own democracy. They are stepping out of the shadows to demand a radical restructuring of power, proving that a truly just society will only be built when the working class forces the dismantling of South Africa's fractured foundations. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end of this journey. Uncovering the complex and often hidden realities of South Africa takes courage, but acknowledging these truths is the first step toward genuine, grassroots change. If this video resonated with you or broadened your perspective, please take a moment to like and share it with your friends, family, and colleagues. By sharing, you play a vital role in educating others and sparking the vital conversations our country so desperately needs. We would love to have you as a permanent part of our community. Please hit that subscribe button to join us here at Quiet Mode. Together, we will continue to explore, question, and shine a light on the stories that matter most. Stay safe, stay informed, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.